Good morning, everyone. Good morning. We'll go ahead and try to get started.
My little staticky.
Welcome to the March Coffee and Commerce for the Cambridge Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm Jo Sexton, and we are very fortunate this morning to have Adam Holmes with us. So I'm going to read a little intro for him. You probably have this memorized. You could do it, but I don't, so I'm going to read. State Representative Adam Holmes is serving his first term in the Ohio House of Representatives. He represents the 97th Ohio House District, which includes all of Guernsey County and portions of Muskingum County. Representative Holmes is currently the CEO of, is it FRUH?
That's right.
FRUH, F-R-U-E-H Enterprises, a mechanical and industrial contracting company that has operated in Zanesville for over 80 years, but he hasn't done that for 80 years. Prior to his work with FRUH Enterprises, Holmes spent 27 years in the United States Marine Corps and retired as a colonel in 2016. During his career as a Marine aviator, Holmes served in several senior leadership and command positions, including 40 combat missions supporting Operation Iraqi Freedom and 3,000 flight hours supporting crisis response missions around the world. Holmes is very active in his community and is a member of the New Hope Lutheran Church. His volunteer experience includes service as the Muskingum County Business Incubator President, member of the Muskingum County Chamber of Commerce Safety Council, and subcommittee leadership as a public member of the Ohio Aviation and Aerospace Technology Committee. Representative Holmes has a Bachelor of Science in Political Science from the United States Naval Academy and a Master's of Science in Global Leadership from the University of San Diego. He lives with his wife and their 2 children in Nashport. So please welcome Adam Holmes.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. We're all on TV, so everybody behave. We're going to be on TV. Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it. Chamber is a lot of comfort for me. A lot of the Chamber of Commerce, I just think, is such an integral, organic part of our communities. And certainly the business of America is business, right? And it's throughout my time in the legislation and what I do now, I just recognize that business is the prime mover. It's just a foundational American concept is the idea of business and what it does for our society and our community. So today there were 3 quick things I'll give you and then Q&A after that of my experiences in the Marine Corps and then as a business owner in this area and then as a state legislator, this unbelievable experience opportunity to show you what I think the state is, what Ohio is strategically, what our future opportunities are for the state. Second, for this area specifically, because I can feel it. I get butterflies in my stomach when I think about what's going to happen here, Cambridge and Zanesville and southeastern Ohio. And then legislation that I work on in the House with this business owner, business perspective. I'm one of the few business owners in the whole assembly. You'd think there'd be more, but it's a very small cadre. And again, I've recognized that approaching most of our legislative issues from a business point of view is the winning way to do it. Marketability and profitability and sustainability, which are words that you all understand. If we apply those to how we legislate, we're going to win. And that's been a success before. Been all over the world as a Marine and as a Marine leader, and one of the things you have to do is look at the strategic environment of any situation. And what you're operating, the terrain and landscape that you're operating in. And it's always mattered. And I know that the United States, there's this big movement towards digitization, technology, and we thought we were going to move away from a manufacturing economy, which we were, to an informational economy. You've heard that. Certainly you see that on TV. The way that the media portrays business, they're looking for the most glamorous people now. They're not going to show you Timken Steel or Ford Motor Company when they show, who do they show you? And you can say it, it's Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, it's the Silicon Valley guys. Somehow we identified business as that, or Uber, that's what you're going to read about. I don't think we had that right as a company, as a country, and I think you see that too, is we do far more than that. That's less than 10% of our overall GDP. America builds things, and we still build things, and that still matters, and that's the prime mover, and we market. Whether you are pro-President Trump or not, it doesn't matter. This is a non-political, it's just, I think one reason for his success is that he focused on business, and he focused on this area. And when you think of the Midwest and what we used to produce, we still do. And it just, as our attention moved off of that, he put attention back on it, which is us, absolutely. And that's been a winner. And certainly, I hope you're seeing the change in business that I'm seeing at my business, which is over the top. And that's where I was this morning. I was there getting it going, because it's just started in March, but we were busy all through the winter. And we're loaded. We're loaded now, industrial mechanical contracting. So what we do is support the big manufacturing businesses. We're over here all the time, AMG Vanadium, Ridge, Creative Packaging, Zane State, that's an older project that we did. We're working at Kellogg's, we're working at Dollar General. All those guys are growing. They're feeling it. And we can all respond to that. Why are all those businesses in this area? And again, I talked about strategically when I came in of what is Ohio. I've had to study a lot of history too, and Ohio's always been centrally located and strategically critical to the United States. Even you got to go back to 1803 and you look at our history, our access to the Great Lakes and the canal systems that move through here and the river system. It's always been a logistics and transportation hub. Ohio has always been the center of that. I'm sure you've all heard this before, that we're an 8-hour drive from 50% of the American population. And that still matters. Another fact that I use all the time and think about is that we have the second most number of interstate miles in the United States. And I didn't believe it until I had the Department of Transport, ODOT, show me. Yeah, California's #1 and Ohio's #2, not Texas, no one else, it's Ohio. But when you think of how those highways followed the canal systems, 70, 77, 71, 75, you can go through those numbers, and that's why this crisscrossing lattice integrated state and that requirement to move goods and services around like that, that's a unique Ohio situation. One of the things I also learned from our company, we purchased a building recently. If you go west to the airport exit in Zanesville, All American Homes used to be out there. We purchased that building. And the first thing I noticed when we purchased it is the Love's gas station and service is overloaded, and there's semi-trucks all up and down the highway. When I came in this morning, and there's semi-trucks parked over here all over the place. This is logistics and transportation occur here. That's 77 and 70, we got that. But with the electronic global positioning systems that they're putting on trucks and their travel logs, there's limitations with oversight on how far they can move from the shipyards in New York, Philadelphia, and Norfolk. It's about 8 to 10 hours. 8 to 10 hours by a semi-truck puts you right here, and they have to stop. So I put those things in context when I think about the strategic importance of Ohio. So when I think of legislation and the ways to support business, I think about that, of what are the core competencies, what are the competitive advantages that we have here, let's leverage that. So I do think the future for us is focusing on logistics and transportation. We're not the first ones to that one. The building we bought was filled with Peterbilt trucks. That's been purchased by Ohio Cat. Dot Truckings, they move refrigerated foods across the United States like the Pony Express, and AutoZone. Some of the bigger jobs that we have as a company this year, Kellogg's and Dollar General, Halliburton, and some of the logistics and transportation requirements. A lot of growth in that area. So add that, what's the other one? And we all know it, it's the oil and gas. And again, President Trump has probably shown that as a real competitive advantage for the United States. So the manufacturing, and then add it to that. You've heard that too, is that we have enough in the Marcellus and Utica shale to become the #1 exporter. We're an exporter now, but and they call it Appalachia, will be the second largest exporter in the world by 2050. We have that capacity. So as business owners, you can see that is a competitive advantage. And as a military person, I spent a lot of time in the Persian Gulf, and the reason why is we had to protect the oil and the shipping lanes from a lot of people that wanted to compete there. That whole chessboard is flipped. Because if we own it locally, think of the reduction in transportation costs of oil and gas, and that's expensive. So we as a district, as business owners and as citizens that live in this area, I do think there's two things when you think about business. Think of it in those contexts. Transportation in the oil and gas industry. Are we equipped to respond, to prepare to that, to use those advantages to their maximum? And when I walk around, when I legislate, that's what I think about. And I think we are. It's growing. If I say cracker plant, you know what that means. For crying out loud, PTT, I looked down there, it looked like they were building New York City down there. That's all the large cranes in the area. They're bringing them from Texas and Louisiana and everywhere to build that. It's gonna happen. I get anxious because I've seen capitalism and that push, and it's just insatiable. God bless America for that demand for better. And I'm so excited because of the opportunities that will provide this area. And just the Apex plant, the dual cycle generator that's going to come here is just the start. Think of the money invested in Byesville, just one, and that's just the start. And if you follow history, you see how that works. You see what innovation develops. I am also the chairman of the Ohio Aerospace and Aviation Technology Committee. What we're focused on is this high-end technology in drones and aviation and aerospace, and that always existed. Ohio, if you look at the corridor, right, you've got Neil Armstrong and the Wright brothers on the back of that corridor, and that's part of our core value system too. Here it comes again. There's the return to the moon, the Artemis program. A lot of that testing and evaluation is done in Ohio. Did you know that? Did you know we have the second largest NASA test facilities anywhere? There's Cape Canaveral and here, up there in Sandusky in Cleveland. Ohioans are too humble. That's another core competence that we have. But in 2 weeks, I'm going up there. They've crafted and tested that Artemis capsule, and that's being built here. General Electric is working on the engines and propulsion systems down in Cincinnati. And then drone technology is going everywhere, and Ohio leads the way on building the air traffic management system for that again. That push towards technology. I tell you that because I feel that way, the way I feel about this area. I studied Cornelius Vanderbilt and the railroads, and he became a kabillionaire and relatively richer than anybody you would say now, except maybe Bloomberg, maybe a little bit more. But why did he get so rich? Is because he saw the vision. He saw what railroads could do and had enough foresight and enough work effort to be the first one to the chalkboard, because what he did is he determined what gauge railroads went in and what size. So he dictated, the Vanderbilt dictated what types of locomotives were built, what types of rail, how they were supported, how they were maintained, how they were constructed. So that's where Ohio, we have to be first to the chalkboard. So as all these things happen, the oil and gas, we have to be the first to define the terms. So that's something I can do out there. And I tell you that story to think about, if we were going to get into drone technology, oil and gas, what are the second and third order support businesses that will support those things? And I don't know what all of your industry, your businesses are, but think about what that might be. There's a lot of things. There's the upstream, and I, again, as a fabricator, I can see what we might do for oil and gas, and we're doing it now. We're modifying their trucks, the special trucks they have. We do a lot of service pipe welding and things like that. But I was down in the Starbucks coffee last week, and I thought, yep, there'll be a lot more of those because they like drinking coffee, right? Do you sell gloves and support equipment? What kind of vehicle maintenance is needed for oil and gas? What kind of storage is required? What happens to the brine? There's huge opportunities, and I'm once in a lifetime, you guys, and that's why I get anxious, because it's like Vanderbilt. We're on the cusp, and you're geographically located here strategically. It's great. The Zanesville too. It's as you move further east, you are very familiar with the terrain challenges here of construction. But what are the other things you can do? As with Dunning, and we talked about vehicle sales, But anyway, I would just offer you that your legislators up there thinking in those terms. And I think about you guys a lot. Because we need to get that, what a golden opportunity to help us solve a lot of challenges we have. So, all right. That kind of business thinking has led me to, I'm committed the rest of my tour up there, and this one was a free look for me. It's 8 years, so I got 2 years now. I filled for Brian Hill, and 8 years follow on. They've put me on several committees. Like I said, I'm chair of the Aviation and Aerospace Technology Committee. I'm on Workforce Development Committee. I'm on Higher Education Committee. I'm on Veterans Committee, and I'm on Health Committee. And again, as a fellow business owner, what would I think about that? So there's 2 bills I have sponsored. One that's already gone through testimony that I'm hoping to vote in the next time we have session. It's about surprise medical billing. And I know this is in your focus. If you're familiar with that, basically, if you're an insured patient and there's an emergency, and you go to an emergency room, there might be situations where you're treated by people in there, an anesthesiologist or pathologist that's not in your insurance network. And what happens is you get a full price bill that's not covered by insurance and you're unaware of that. Surprise medical billing. It's about 20% of all Ohioans end up getting one. That can be $2,000 on average, but sometimes I've seen up into $44,000 that somebody gets one of these. And it's not covered. The healthcare providers don't give you a break, the insurers don't give you a break, and the hospitals don't give you a break. Has anyone familiar with that? Has anyone had an example? I've had 2 of my workers have that happen to them. We made a huge step 2 years ago. We had a wonderful year, and I could make a choice. I could hire more guys, I could buy some more equipment, or I could get health care, because it's so expensive. So I said health care. So the surprise medical bill, the Assembly asked me to sponsor it, one, because the forces at work are powerful, and you need a business perspective for that. Healthcare is going to be the most expensive thing that we have. It is now, but as a country, it could break us if we don't handle this. And one reason why they put me on it is we have to stem that, because as the cost, if we don't handle surprise medical billing and all the further medical demands there are by our citizenry, it's going to break us. The insurers aren't going to take a pay cut. The doctors don't want to take a pay cut. The hospitals don't want to take a pay cut. They just want someone to pay their prices, and that ends up being us. Those small businesses, those people that purchase insurance. We can't sustain that as a country. And this push towards socialized medicine, which will be a huge impact on businesses if we think our taxes now are substantial, that will definitely be a game changer. That's a bill that I volunteered to sponsor, so I put that in. And so for what it's worth, you have a business man in there. I've talked with Keith Lake a lot at the Chamber of Commerce. They're an ally. They supported me. They're the one organization that's fully in support of how we're handling that. So you're aware of the healthcare costs and why they grow, and especially in this area, and I'll get to that in a second. The second thing that I'm going to sponsor, and we're going to have a press conference next week, it's comprehensive anti-opioid legislation. That's why I got into the chair in the first place. I retired in 2016 from the Marine Corps, and I was very troubled at some legislation that I saw that was putting up for vote. Issue 1, there was a legalization of marijuana was one thing, and a decriminalization of the drug epidemic. We handled drugs, it was severely in the Marine Corps. Zero tolerance, you can't, and all of us, and we don't need to raise hands here, because I know everybody here knows somebody who's addicted, and the huge problems it creates to a community. And so if we don't solve that, that's what I tell everybody. We're not, all the other great initiatives and the hope I have, it gets undermined and compromised. We have to solve the drug problems. From a humanitarian case first, in this area, you've all felt that, but let me put on my business hat again, is the cost. The cost of treating and supporting an addicted person is extraordinary. It's multiple times the normal workers, and they cannot produce value. They can't work. So anyway, what this legislation does is make sure we find ways to treat these people at very cost-effective ways, get them work skills, and get them back in the workforce. And then find those that are putting the poison in our system and make sure they're fully accountable, make it extremely painful for them. And I know who they are, and that's something that I was trained in the Marine Corps too. I don't want to overstate the comparisons, but it is an insurgency. It's a way of thinking. You have to cut out, the way to get through the drug epidemic is you have to treat it like cancer, like you treat an insurgency. So cut out, remove the cancer that exists, create a climate inside that's toxic to that kind of cancer, and put preventive systems around it so nothing new can come in. So that's what we're going to do. That's what you'll see if you watch PBS and Ohio Channel when we introduce that. And that's it. I'm going to commit my whole time there to those two things: healthcare, correcting that so businesses can manage it, and the opioid crisis. And they're the same. I was with Cambridge Schools and the Education Support Centers earlier this month. Our children, what they're trying to, man, all the things they do to support them. But you hear the term wraparound services, and it's only going to grow. Mental health issues that we're recognizing now, and the demand and the capability of healthcare that we can provide. And God bless the oncology center that you have in Cambridge now, that's as good as anywhere you would go in the United States, but that costs money. So we have to work on that to make workable, beneficial, marketable solutions for healthcare. And solve the opioid crisis. That's my vision for the future. The good news is I think we're all together, and I'm very hopeful. America can solve this. We've done it before, and we're going to do it again. And the opportunities are golden. We just have to stick together. And that's a real strength of Ohio. And I'll finish with that before questions. Those are challenges, but I'm very hopeful. I've been around the world in many states. Ohio does have a lot of things in common. One is a fundamental sense of decency and kindness. I think we talk about that, and the way that we treat each other with dignity and respect. You see a lot on TV, the fighting and the bickering and the antagonism in politics. That's not what I see at the State House. I see a lot of good, decent people, and they would agree with everything I said, and they care about each other. That is legit, and I'm proud of that. And the others, that Ohioans are extremely hard workers, and that's carried us forever, a reputation for that. So kindness, decency, and hard work, you can't beat that. And that's who you guys are, so that's why I'm honored to be here, and I will support you 100%, I promise. And you hear politicians say this, I mean it. You have to call me, please. Will you call if you have an opinion on something? And you have. Salt Fork. That's the only way we thrive, and that is the American government. That's the way, right? I'm accountable to you guys. I need to represent you, but the only way I can represent you is I understand where you're in the policies. I've taken a year of learning that. But I'm very proud of that, of the time I've spent other places around the world defending a concept of self-government that we do together as a team. I'm very proud of that, and I hold it with the highest respect, and I'll give it 100% effort for you guys. Anyway, thank you for the time here. It took 30 minutes.
I just want to make sure that we recognize that Continuing Healthcare at Beckett House sponsored the broadcast today. So thank you. And the Farm Bureau bought the donuts.
Hey!
And that's important too. So stay tuned for next month's Coffee and Commerce. We'll let you know what's on the schedule. Thank you for coming.
Hey, get my card. That's good, thanks. That's good.
Absolutely.